Hi, this is Shahir again with another episode of Radio Silence. The topic I have with me at this instance is very interesting. It is very important as well, and I have taken it up at the recommendation of my dear cousin Hamza Bhai. He's a man of global exposure, studying and living in Belgium. Uh, and I realized after talking to him that he's older than me, almost, I believe, 6 or 7 years. But we have all suffered from this thing because we went through the same education system, and all of us, regardless of our age, have suffered from this. It is something that has ingrained itself into Pakistani society. And I am talking about private education. Now, if you're aware with what happens, what goes on in Pakistan society, you'll see that there's a rat race in everything, right? There's an endless competition going on. What you wear, where you go, what car you have, which school you go to, right? How many marks you're getting. You need to get more marks than your aunt's daughter or son, right? That is very important in Pakistani society in that context. And that is why a huge chunk of the market is driven towards private schools because they have this allure of providing better quality education that could set up the children of concerned parents for success. But after discussing this with as I mentioned, my cousin and also other people, uh, I realized that it is just a huge scam. That's what it is. Now, first, I'd like to discuss the endemic problems in Pakistan's education system. It's a third world country, and there are lots of problems that are ingrained within the system. And the problem with private schools is that they may claim that they have the solution, but they are just as bad, or one may argue that they're even worse off than public schools. Let's take the example of studying to get an arts degree or studying to become a sportsman. I think you're worse off if you join a private school. In Pakistan, private schools are literally operating out of houses, right? There's going to be a housing complex, and in it, private schools are operating their classes and they're teaching students. How can you possibly expect to become a good artist or a good sportsman when you don't even have a proper arts room or a proper ground, a proper sports ground? In this regard, I think private schools lag behind public schools. In my own personal experience, I studied at a military school, at a cadet college, and the facilities there, in terms of sports, they've outshone the private school I went to by far. By far, it was left in the dust. So, if you want to become an artist and you think that going to a private school to get a Cambridge degree is going to solve your problems, you're in for a huge surprise, my friend. Right, so that's that. If you want to study the arts, maybe private schools may not solve your problem. Right. The second thing, which is very important in a national perspective, is language acquisition. English in Pakistan, it is not a language, it is a status. And being able to speak good English, it is a huge distinction. And some may argue that it could be the distinction between what keeps you unemployed or what gets you the top job. And you may think that, okay, I'll go to, let's talk about the most prominent schools in Pakistan in the private sector, Roots or Beacon House or City School. You say, I'll go to Roots, and over there, the milieu, the social environment of the place will allow me to excel and develop my English skills. That is not going to be the case. It is going to be it is going to be very similar to what you experience in any other educational setting in Pakistan. English is not going to come to you more naturally after you study at a private school, and that's just the truth. So don't expect that private schools are a haven for language acquisition, because that's just simply not going to happen. And I say that from experience. And the third endemic and the last problem that is across the board in Pakistan's education system is the overpopulation of classes. I have been in classes with at least 60 students. You cannot provide quality education with 60 students crammed into one class, right? That is simply not going to invest anything in them, and that is simply not going to allow the teacher to give any of them individual attention. And for sure, it's going to allow a lot of students to get away with substandard work and to get away with slacking. So overpopulation in government schools which are free, the public schools which are free in Pakistan, overpopulation is obviously going to be a phenomena, but it's there in private schools too, driven by this desire of hordes and hordes of parents to get the upper status by having their children study in a elite school. So you're going to be studying with lots and lots of students, and don't think that you're going to get individual attention, which is going to be a huge problem. Universities like Cambridge, which have a student-teacher ratio of 3 to 1, or MIT, which has student to teacher ratio of 5 to 1. There's a reason that they keep classes so small. There's a reason that these schools do so well with their students. And this is something very important when people go abroad. They actually consider this thing, the student-teacher ratio. But if you think private schools in Pakistan are going to be the solution for that, I'm sorry, I won't agree with you. I don't think that's a fact. Right. Now, these were things which you are going to find in every school in Pakistan, right? We talked about how extracurricular opportunities are lacking in Pakistan across the board. We talked about overpopulation of classes, and we talked about how you won't learn English if you go to private schools. Now let's talk about the specifics of private schools, the sins that they commit in their own right. I went to a private school. Its name was Roots, and I spent 2 years there, and I do have some very strong feelings about the time I spent over there. So let's begin with the elephant in the room: money. If you're going to study in Roots, it's going to cost you upward of 35,000 rupees a month. And that is considering that the average, according to the latest statistics, the average income in Pakistan is way below that. The minimum income in Pakistan is 17,500 rupees. So how can a person who is earning, who is a physical laborer, a manual laborer, who is earning 17,500 rupees per month, how can he pay exactly double of that to study in Roots? And this results in the huge phenomena of elitism. It results in private schools becoming a hub for the elites. It results in creation of a huge chasm between the rich and the poor. And in third world countries, such things are already very pronounced. What these schools do is that they exacerbate that. So fees are a huge problem. And this is considering that you will also have to pay your external fees. So you're going to be studying, if you go to my school, Roots, you're going to be studying in the British examination system. You're going to study the Cambridge O&A level examinations. You're going to prepare for them. And each paper is going to cost you 13,000 rupees. Again, go back to the minimum wage, which is 17,000. If a person has to pay 13,000 for each subject for his student, a person who's earning 17 per month, it simply blows one mind at the level of wealth inequality that this system is propagating. So money is one thing. The other thing is this global network of scamming that these private schools commit to. The college admission scandal broke out in the US, and I followed it extensively. Felicity Huffman, Lori Loughlin, both of these women were convicted because they tried to get their children unfair advantages in the college admissions process. But the things that happened in Pakistan, they would put Felicity and Lori to shame. The sort of collusion and the sort of dishonesty and the sort of systemic corruption and rot that has set into the private education edifice of Pakistan, it completely rocks one to the core. So, and they tie it with money. So, for example, if you want to apply to the United States, they're going to charge you money for that, right? They're going to charge you 40,000 Pakistani rupees for that, which I paid. And if you don't pay that money, you can't even apply to the United States. But it gets even more sinister than that. When you pay that money, it means that they're going to go all out for you. They're not going to maintain any standards of honesty in this industry. And that means you can expect completely fake transcripts. You're getting B's, C's, or D's in your Cambridge exams, which are checked externally but in your school transcripts you're getting straight A's and A stars, right? Because you paid them. This gets much more sinister when we take this into account. Similarly, you can expect that your recommendations are going to be flawless. The reason they're going to be flawless is that you will be writing them. You will be pinning your recommendations down. You'll be penning them, and you'll be giving them to your counselor, and that counselor will just email them from different email domains that she or he has set up. So that shows you the extent to which this system is developed. This global scam, the way that it is organized, it runs deep. And the story with global universities, it doesn't end over there, right? We are yet to talk about financial aid, right? So when you're studying in Pakistan, and if you want to go abroad, then you need financial aid. That is a given, because unless you aren't in probably the top 1% in Pakistan, you simply cannot afford a US college education. Hell, people in the US can't afford a US college education. They themselves get government loans. So in Pakistan, you need financial aid. And the reason that so many students apply to the US specifically is financial aid. Universities in the UK and in most of Europe, they don't dish out financial aid. Those in the US, they do. But the approach back in Pakistan to financial aid is very different. You will never hear a private school call it financial aid. They will always call it a scholarship. And that will give you the impression that this person has gotten a merit scholarship, that this person qualified on the basis of his or her merit, that he was so good, he or she blew the university representatives in such a manner that they simply had to take them on. When it is actually financial aid, it is their inability to pay that has now been covered by that institution. So it is anything but a scholarship. And this is what they advertise it to other students, that look at our students, they're getting such huge scholarships. Even though it's just financial aid, that is actually a handout. That is not something you should be proud of, not something that you should actually advertise. So this really has to change, and it really has to be brought to the spotlight, right? So that is the approach towards financial aid. Another very important phenomena that I have personally observed is the increased vertical integration of these institutions. So they want you to spend your entire student life with them, right? They'll take you in pre-Montessori when you're crawling, and they'll take you in, and they'll get you building blocks, and you'll spend some time over there, and they'll take you all the way up to bachelor level education. And that's a huge problem, right? Since the very beginning that you join these schools, they are going to inculcate in your mind a sense of entitlement, a sense of superiority, or a sense that you simply do not need to strive too hard in order to reach your goals. And this was something that I myself personally felt. The more extraordinary students, yeah, sure, everyone was fine with them, but the students who did not exert themselves in high school, they got a special attention from the administration. The reason for that is that those students would stick around for longer. If they had a good attitude towards those students, they would take them on for bachelor levels, and those students would fork out huge money to these institutions for a much longer time than the students who would go to the US or go to a national institution in Pakistan. And this is another phenomena which I find to be very troubling, because if you develop human capital along these lines, it means that when these guys go out in the job market, they will have no marketable skills. You are going to inculcate in their minds the sense that they don't need to exert themselves, that they don't need to work hard, that everything is fine, that if you're getting E's and U's, no worries, we'll take you on to bachelor's level. If you got D's or C's in O levels, okay, they'll take you in A levels, and when you flunk A levels, they'll take you in bachelor's, and then when you come out of bachelor's, you'll find that no one wants you. and whatever money you spent getting this education was actually a huge waste. So these trends are very, very troubling. And the thing is that people come to these institutions with so much hope, with so much expectations, and with such sincere ideals of hard work, which ideals of getting a better education, making a better lives out of themselves. But they are scammed and they are caught up in this huge business, in this huge organizational complex. And these institutions, they pose around as if they're actually benefactors of society. All of them get public sector awards, but in actuality, in real time, they are actually exploiting the very people that they have to serve. This is a matter I feel very passionately about, and I do think that I will be making further videos highlighting the specifics of these issues and delve into them much deeper. Till then, thank you very much for listening, and it's bye from my side.